How you doing? How you doing? And how you doing, ladies and gentlemen? It's your boy Patty, and I appreciate you stopping by today. And I'd like to welcome you to my very first and hopefully very last response video. And we're not going to do this in reaction style or use a bunch of clips from his video or anything. We're mainly going to discuss and talk about the context and some of the things that he's talking about. And I'd like to make it very, very, very clear that none of this is going to be an attack on Mtashed as a person. He seems like a cool dude. I have zero things against this man on a personal level. But I've seen a few hot takes from him that at this point leads me to believe that this is the very first gacha game that he's ever played. I don't know for 100% if that is absolutely true or not, but all the stuff that I'm seeing from him leads me to believe that he is very unfamiliar with this market. So I wanted to talk about a few of the things that he mentions, and for some of you, because there's a lot of people that Genshin has reached that have never played a gacha game before, give y'all a little bit of a history lesson here and there, trying to throw in some context so that you have a better overall understanding of, basically what some of this game was modeled after when it was built, because this isn't a true gacha either, but we'll get into all that. But just to give you guys a little bit of background on myself, I've been playing gacha games since 2015. I found Summoner's War, I think it had been out for almost a year at that point, or maybe like 6 months, something like that. But at this point, there were no real gacha games. The Summoner's War was kind of the first of its generation, and to this day is one of the powerhouses of the market. I still play it to this day on and off. And if, you need a little dinky thing to do on your phone because you're playing Genshin on your computer, hey, Summoner's War ain't bad. It's not bad. But I've been playing Summoner's War and other games in the market since 2015. So I have a good background and knowledge of just kind of general history with gachas and everything like that. So let's look at some of our boys' points here. So one of the very first things that he goes in on, and he mentions that, the first time that you spend $100 in the shop to get Primo Gems, you get the double reward for it, and that should be enough for a pity. I'm not sure if it is. I didn't sit down and do the math. But he goes on to basically say that, after that, you can spend $100 and not be guaranteed a Nat 5. And that seems utterly ridiculous to him. Just to give you guys an idea, it wasn't even a thing in gacha games to buy 5-star characters outright until about the 3rd or 4th year of Summoner's War. And I think other games did it first, and Summoner War was like begrudgingly like, all right, we want some of that money too. And they introduced it, and you could only buy it once. I think the first time they did it was on a Christmas sale. And it was $100 once, and then you couldn't buy it again. Like, you couldn't whale out and spend, $2,000 and pull every Nat 5 in the game. They would literally only give you one because of how strong of a resource a 5-star character is in those games. So, it took a long time for the industry to even get to the point where, like, all right, we'll sell you a 5-star, but you're only getting one. And it's literally on Christmas. Like, now, there are other games that have incredibly predatory monetization practices. If you want to look at a really, really good one modern day, look at Raid Shadow Legends. It is one of the worst when it comes to monetization. You cannot clear the game and reach endgame content with free-to-play characters. You 100% have to pull certain characters with certain abilities that only exist within such a small hero pool size that it's ridiculous. Like, it's insane. They also run flash sales. They have weekly and daily sales. And then they'll also custom tailor their sales to you, and at first give you really, really great value for them, and then slowly increase the prices on things and decrease the value in the packs. Like, they literally try to give you, like, crack rocks. Like, there are games basically slinging the rock out there right now and have been for years, and millions of people are playing them. But this is the evil game that is, just out for monetization and just trying to get as much money as they can. Everything else be damned. Bro, no. In the industry, Genshin Impact is basically an angel. The amount, and again, all these other games are mostly like autoplay dungeon ones. There's been a few that have had like MOBA modes and stuff like that, and those have been super interesting. Still a little predatory because all the best characters in the MOBA mode are 5 stars that are hard to get. So for all of these things to exist and have been things that have been around for years, and I'm not saying that these are good things. I'm just saying, like, all of this exists within the industry, but we're going to single in on Genshin and talk about how evil and predatory they are for not giving a 5-star every $100. No game is doing that. And another big thing that if we look at all of these other gacha games, they all have hundreds of characters. We've got 20. Important things to keep in context and remember in all of these conversations. So, next, one of the next points that he kind of gets into and hammers home across a couple of things is basically that not having every character makes it too unplayable and too difficult to make content for, because not everybody has every character. Did you hear that, guys? You can't make content on a gacha game unless you and literally everyone else has every single character. That's okay. Okay, that's an interesting hot take. I really don't know what to say to that one. That is literally always going to be a thing, and that's kind of a meme. But I'm not going to hammer home on this man. But as he's making that point about, like, not having every character and everything makes it very hard. Leveling characters in gachas, leveling your characters in this game is, predatory too, because it takes time and it takes resources. So again, for some of you guys that are new to gachas, building your characters is one of the biggest parts of the game. Like, it's over 50% of the game guaranteed. Like, farming, running your dungeons and everything like that. That all comes after all the work of building your character. And that's literally like the entire focus of all of these games, is not really, reaching the very last level and being like, I did it, I beat it, I'm done. It's to have these characters that you can build and evolve over hundreds of hours of gameplay. And it can take some time. My first 2 years of playing Summoner's War, it would take me almost a month to 6-star a character. In the first 6 months of the game, that wasn't even a thing. We couldn't even dream about it. But that's also because I was doing a lot of things wrong. I did not have a very good understanding of the game, and part of what makes gachas so engaging and keeps people playing them for years isn't the, gambling, I've gotta see what I get. Most people that play gachas for several years, might spend a little bit more than they should the first year they play it, and then after that typically don't spend much, if ever at all. There is hundreds and thousands of hours of playtime that you can get without ever spending a dime in these games. What makes these games so playable is their very deep and rich systems of building your character out, of putting teams together. That is the whole thing. And of course there's the element of getting super good or super meta characters can make your progression and everything. a lot more intense, or certain characters in arena will make it viable for you to be a top tier player. That's all true, but it's not the majority of the game, or it's not as big of a part of the game as it likes to be advertised when people decide, all right, let's talk about, gacha games. We can talk about some of the predatory practices. Look at all the things that Raid Shadow Legends is doing. There should definitely be a conversation there about those monetization practices, and the fact that they even tailor in the kind of sales that they're trying to show you. That is super aggro, bro. That's crazy. I don't think they should be allowed to do that. But to pretend that the entire genre as it exists is nothing but gambling, greed, and predatoriness is insane. Addiction doesn't keep people playing for years. It's the game. It's the deep system. It's like it's building new characters. There's a reason that these games have become so successful that they're their own thriving genre, making millions and millions of dollars. It is very difficult, for a lot of AAA games to get playtime for years. Typically the only thing you would see with stuff like that is games that have a cult following, like, some of the fighting games, or something like World of Warcraft, where people are paying a subscription and, there's expansions and new content being released. That's almost the same model that you're seeing with some of these gachas. One of the next points that he makes is that the Spiral Abyss, the end game thing, is hard. And then he specifically focuses in on a level that has, like, the units that have the best shields in the entire game. Like, their shields are more broken than the bosses. And we're talking about, like, the skirmishers and everything like that. Like, those Fatui agents are absolutely insane to fight. Even in the real world. Like, I got bullied by one last night when I was trying to make a Klee video. It hurt my feelings a little bit. And that was just walking around. That's not even with all the crazy modifiers that they put into Abyss. So, of course, that level is going to be insane. But the point where, the Spiral Abyss being, too difficult is kind of a meme. For a little bit of context, they introduced raid bosses in Jesus Christ. Summoner's War, I want to say like 2 or 3 years ago, maybe 3 years. That feels right. And there was, R1, R2, R3, R4, R5 difficulties for them. I was able to do R1, you know what I mean? And it took another, I don't want to say year before I was doing R3, because again, I made many mistakes for a very long time in that game and used my resources very poorly. But, I eventually got up to R3, and that's it. We ain't on R5. I ain't probably gonna reach R5 ever in that game. Not with how casually I play it. That is just not going to happen. So to treat these games where there is going to be intensely different amounts of playtime between each player and how invested they get into the game, you have to have content that is very difficult, or the people that love your game the most, that play it the most, are going to be the first ones to leave because they run out of stuff to do. So I don't feel like it's a particularly fair assessment to be like, Abyss is hard. Can we say that Abyss's rewards could probably be tuned up a little bit? Yeah. And for anybody that was following the game pre-launch, that was one of the main criticisms people had, was the changes that they made to the Abyss system and things only resetting after Abyss level 8. They can definitely do something with that system, and I hope after they have a few months under their belt, they take a really serious look at a lot of the systems they have in this game, because there's a lot of fine-tuning that could happen to really polish this up and make it just amazing. And it's really good right now. It is insanely good for what we typically get in the or in the gacha market. So good luck to the man. And again, I don't want any hate here towards him. Even if you're not a fan of Mtashed, I really don't want to see you talking smack about him in the comments. So just be like, yeah, I agree, Petty, if that's and leave it at that if that's what you have to do. But I kind of just wanted to add my own voice to the conversation because I just am not a fan of some of the narratives that I'm seeing be carried around and talked about Genshin with. Hurts my little heart a little bit because you really must have never seen any other gacha to think that this one is predatory. I don't really know how many more ways to say that. I feel like this has been a 16-minute video of me basically just breaking down. No, not so much. So we'll see, and I'll add this too. If Genshin Impact set the standard for all gacha games moving forward from today, the entire industry would be 10 times better than it's been at any point in the last 5 years. I would love to see that. I would love for companies to see the success that Genshin has had at making a really good game that people actually love. And it's crazy. It's crazy to me. We'll get 3 more reskinned from some anime dungeon farming gacha games, and people will be like, "Oh, this is amazing." Meanwhile, Genshin's over here like, "I gave you like 200 square miles to run around in, bunch of characters to make and build. But yeah, no, go hit auto on that dungeon again. Thanks." So hopefully you guys are enjoying the game and aren't being too heavily affected or led along by some of the hate train stuff that I'm seeing. But let me know what you guys think. I appreciate each and every one of you. I love you guys. You're going to have to catch your boy in the next one because we out of here. Deuces. Hey! So I forgot something. So I just wanted to tag this on to the end of the video. I didn't want to like try and splice it in somewhere and be like, "Oh, you're getting edited content now." Because my people know how I feel about that. But one of the things that I forgot to kind of cover when I went over everything was he talks about the price raises that happened in game in certain countries and everything. And he kind of frames it in this like, "MiHoYo, how could you?" And it's super disingenuous if you don't know anything about that situation. Basically, Apple made some policy changes kind of suddenly in certain countries for like some exchange rate stuff, for some taxes stuff. Either way, Apple made this change, and it's affected many games in the mobile market that are in those places. So that's a little unfair to hang on MiHoYo, but that's happened before. For I want to say it was Final Fantasy XIV had a very similar thing happen. And for a month, they ate the increased cost and let players from those regions buy things at the same price. And they were basically just, paying the little bit extra on the back end themselves instead of making the consumers pay for it. They did that for a month. That's a super cool move. Could they have tried to do something like that? Yeah. Yeah, and you can, kind of knock them for not trying to do something like that or extend some kind of olive branch over that situation, which would have been a pretty appropriate thing to do. But to be like, they're raising the prices, they're coming for your wallet. Just not really the whole situation. Again, context is everything, and that's what we tried to focus on this video. So if you enjoyed any of it, you're a new face here, I'd appreciate you hitting that subscribe button, boy or girl. But yeah, I just wanted to add that on because I realized that I forgot to. So, all right, now you're gonna have to catch your boy on the next one because we're out of here again. Deuces.